Chapter 7. The Silver Mist Protocol. The dawn over Amaranthin did not break with the golden warmth of a peaceful era, but with the pale, cold light of a city struggling to remember how to live. Otnam stood by the window of his Spartan chambers, watching the first rays of the sun catch the lingering dust of reconstruction. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp stone and the faint, metallic tang of the harbor. He turned away from the window and knelt, facing the east. This was not the desperate plea of a man seeking salvation, but the disciplined communion of a priest. He invoked the name of evening glory, his voice a low, rhythmic vibration in the quiet room. The connection was cold and precise, a sharpening of the spirit that mirrored the sharpening of a blade. The prayer felt different now, less about the raw hunger for personal power and more about the heavy, collective weight of healing a broken people. When the prayer was finished, the physical labor began. In the center of the room, Otnam moved through his martial forms. His auburn hair was soon damp with sweat, his blue eyes fixed on an invisible opponent. Every strike was calculated, every pivot designed to maximize the lethal efficiency of his frame. Strength and dexterity were not just traits to him, they were the foundations upon which his reign would be built. After a quick, efficient bath and a meal of dried meats and herbal tea that tasted more of duty than flavor, Otnam descended to the administrative heart of the city. The archives of the Amaranthin city administration had been reorganized under his direction, stripped of their bureaucratic rot and replaced with the lean efficiency of a war room. Otnam unrolled a massive parchment map across the central table. As he leaned over it, his eyes of the rune keeper flared with a subtle, violet light. Shimmering runic patterns danced across the paper, highlighting the hidden truths of the landscape. To the north lay the Frost Principalities, a region of jagged peaks and mineral-rich isolation, and Stoneheart, nestled in the Slate Mountain Confederation. To the east, the Emerald Confederacy sat like a jewel, its borders defined by rare timber and the aggressive neutrality of a merchant empire. But it was the west that held his gaze, the fractured territories of the blood tide. They are strategically positioned, Otnam murmured to the empty room, his finger tracing the complex border. But diplomatically, they are a pariah. The map revealed more than just borders. It revealed the veins of the world. The Silver Mist River originated in the Northern Frost, cutting a jagged path through the Slate Mountain Confederation before entering Silverstrand and terminating at Lake Obsidian. It was a lifeline, a corridor of trade that connected the high peaks to his own doorstep. Justin, Otnam called out. Justin Allen, his primary diplomatic strategist, stepped into the room. His steel-gray hair was pulled back tightly, his eyes reflecting the same administrative precision that Otnam demanded of himself. "I want an envoy sent to Stoneheart," Otnam commanded, pointing to the mountain city carved into the Silver Mist Pass. The Slate Mountain clans are engineers and metallurgists. They are independent, but they respect strength. Send 10 of our most disciplined elite guards, a show of force but not an army. They are to travel swiftly by river. Justin nodded, already mentally drafting the credentials. "And the message, sire? Tell them to cease all trade with the blood tide immediately if they wish for peaceful relations with Silverstrand," Otnam said, his voice hardening. "We are the new power on this river. They need to know that the old era of looking the other way is over." "A calculated move," Justin remarked. "It demonstrates our reach without the heat of an invasion." As Justin departed to organize the mission, Otnam turned his attention to the internal foundations of his kingdom. He summoned Archmage Lyanna Starweave of the Mage Training Guild and Dr. Blackwood of the Technology Research Center. Lyanna entered with the quiet confidence of a storm, her silver hair braided with runic ribbons. Beside her, Blackwood adjusted his spectacles, the faint whir of his mechanical prosthetic hand a constant reminder of the fusion between magic and machine that Otnam sought to foster. Teleportation circles and communication stones, Otnam began, laying out a series of sketches on the table. "I want a network that is as heavily guarded as it is efficient. Amaranthin must be the hub of a system that can move information and power in an instant." Lyanna's runic tattoos shifted subtly, reflecting her mental calculations. "The premonitions are already whispering," Otnam, this project, it will be the anchor of the kingdom. Use the treasury funds, Otnam told them. The gold seized from the old council will finally serve the people. I am trusting you two to lead this. Do not fail me. The afternoon did not find Otnam behind a desk. Instead, he was on the battlements, his regal armor replaced by a simple tunic. He worked alongside the masons and laborers, his hands calloused and stained with mortar. He helped lift the massive stones that would reinforce the city's walls, his presence a silent promise to the workers. Their king was not above the dirt of reconstruction. As evening fell, a communal dinner was held in the administrative hall. It was an open forum, a place where the leaders of the new Silverstrand could speak freely. Lyra, Marcus, Helena, and the department heads sat around a long table laden with simple but hearty food. The reconstruction is at 65%, Justin reported, breaking the silence. But the cost is high, 50,000 silver coins just to restore the critical systems. Otnam looked at Dr. Blackwood. And the damage bill for the blood tide? Is it ready? Blackwood slid a meticulously itemized document across the table. Infrastructure destruction, economic disruption, civilian displacement. It totals 50,000 silver. But there is more. The room grew somber as Lyra spoke, her voice uncharacteristically soft. We lost 487 civilians. 82 of them were children. 126 of our city guard fell defending the gates. Otnam's jaw tightened. Statistics are for accountants. For a king, they are a debt of blood. He took a quill and began to write, his hand steady. Add a life compensation fee to the bill. 16,000 for the children. 34,000 for the working adults. 9,000 for the soldiers. The total reparation demand is 123,230 silver coins. Justin looked at the final number. They will see this as an ultimatum. It is, Otnam replied. Tell them that if they have trouble paying, I am happy to speak with their leadership in person. I suspect they will understand the subtext. With the magical communication stones activated, the message was encoded and transmitted into the night. A digital seal of war and restitution sent directly to the heart of the blood tide. Now we wait, Otnam said, rising from the table. We wait for Stoneheart to choose a side, and for the tide to realize the cost of their arrogance. Until then, we rest. He retired to his Spartan quarters, the distant sound of hammers and saws still echoing through the night. As he closed his eyes, his mind remained alert, listening to the rhythm of a city being reborn, and the silent, growing shadow of the kingdom he was determined to protect. Dawn broke over Amaranthan with a newfound sense of purpose. The light filtered through carefully repaired windows, no longer illuminating piles of rubble, but the beginnings of a new order. Otnam awoke before the sun, his eyes snapping open with the sharp clarity of a man whose mind never truly slept. He checked the communication stones on his bedside table. They remained cold and silent. No word from Stoneheart, no word from the tide. Justin was already waiting in the outer chamber, a fresh report in one hand and a steaming cup of morning tea in the other. His steel-gray hair was impeccably arranged, his posture as rigid as ever. Good morning, sire, Justin said, offering the tea. The stones remain quiet, but the day is young. Otnam took the tea, the warmth seeping into his hands. Then we continue the work. The city will not wait for diplomatic courtesies. The morning began, as always, with the communion. Otnam knelt in the streaming light, his hands raised toward the rising sun. He invoked evening glory, but the ritual felt grounded now, tied to the soil and stone of the city he had claimed. It was a warlock's prayer for the strength to endure, for the wisdom to build something that would outlast the ash. When the ritual was complete, he did not return to his maps. Instead, he descended into the streets. The market district was a hive of activity. Otnam moved through the crowds, his presence causing a ripple of hushed whispers. He did not stop to make a speech, he stopped to work. He found a team of laborers struggling to reset a fallen stone column that had once marked the entrance to the Grand Bazaar. Without a word, Otnam stepped into the line, his shoulder taking the weight alongside them. "On 3, he commanded, his voice cutting through the din. With a collective grunt, the column was hoisted back into place. The workers looked at him with a mixture of awe and confusion, their hands raw and dusty. Otnam simply nodded and moved on to the next task. As the days stretched into a rhythmic cycle of labor and leadership, Otnam began to weave his magic into the very fabric of the reconstruction. He stood in the center of the town square and began a low, rhythmic incantation. From the shimmering air emerged a translucent, ethereal force, an unseen servant. It was a simple spell, but Otnam expanded its scope, anchoring the force to the primary construction zones. In the market, the servant methodically reset stalls and sorted through salvageable goods. At the docks, it moved heavy timbers and organized reconstruction materials with a precision no human could match. Trade centers saw documents reorganized and damaged infrastructure cleaned by the invisible hands. Workers marveled as heavy stones seemed to align themselves perfectly, and loads that would have taken 10 men to carry were transported effortlessly through the air. Efficiency met innovation, and the pace of the city's rebirth accelerated. But Otnam did not rely on magic alone. He used every skill in his arsenal. He stood with the architects, his eyes of the rune keeper flaring as he examined ancient, crumbling blueprints. He could see the structural weaknesses that time and war had hidden, identifying the optimal points for reinforcement with eldritch energy. He used minor illusions to help the masons visualize the complex new fortifications he envisioned, towers that would never break and gates that would hold against any tide. In the residential areas, he helped clear debris from the homes of the elderly. A young mason watched him carefully reset a cornerstone, learning the craft through the observation of a king who was not afraid to get his hands dirty. An elderly woman, her face a map of the city's history, brought him a cup of water, her eyes filled with a quiet, profound respect that no decree could ever buy. "You are rebuilding more than buildings, sire," Justin noted one afternoon, watching Otnam as he worked alongside a team of carpenters. "You are rebuilding hope." Otnam wiped the sweat from his brow, his blue eyes scanning the horizon. "Hope is a fragile thing, Justin. It needs walls to protect it and industry to feed it. We are giving them both." The routine became the heartbeat of Amaranthan. Mornings, the communion with evening glory, a sharpening of the spirit. Days, intensive reconstruction, a masterclass of magical and physical intervention. Evenings, strategic meetings in the administrative hall, where the department heads reported on the progress of the 6 guilds. Nights, a vigilant rest, with the communication stones always within reach. The city transformed before their eyes. The market districts regained their structure. The docks became functional hubs of maritime activity, and the trade centers were rebuilt with a resilience that surpassed their former glory. The people began to recognize Otnam not just as a conqueror or a sovereign, but as a collaborator, a leader whose legendary efforts were whispered about in the reconstruction camps. As the first week drew to a close, the city grew stronger with every passing hour. The walls were rising, the aqueducts were flowing, and the spirit of Silverstrand was beginning to take root in the very ash of its past. And through it all, the communication stones remained silent. Stoneheart and the Blood Tide had yet to respond, but Otnam did not mind the silence. Every day they delayed was another day he used to turn Amaranthan into a fortress that would make their eventual answers irrelevant. He was ready, and his kingdom was rising.